Hello everyone, on this video I'm exploring for you Saturn karmas. Saturn's karmas are the most intense and meaningful karmas that we have to face in this lifetime. By sign position we understand about deeds in past lives and what it means for our present experience. If you are new to my channel, sub below. Let's begin. First of all, everybody, what is the difference between your sign position of Saturn and the house Saturn is in? There's a very clear difference and distinction. Saturn by sign indicates deeds, actual actions which you have performed, and these patterns of behavior are very much ingrained into your being. Therefore, people often recognize themselves clearly in their Saturn sign position, and sometimes even more clearly than in their moon and ascendant sign. That can be seen. Saturn's house position, though, is the exact area in your life where these deeds will now become ripe for retribution. Very often, this will be where you meet exact people who you interacted with in previous incarnations. If you are not sure about your Saturn house position, check the link below. I have a whole playlist of Saturn by house, including all aspects. So what exactly are the Saturn karmas? How can we see the difference between Saturn karma and karma related to Jupiter, Mars, Venus, other planets? Saturn karmas are known as papa karmas. The word papa, loosely translated, means sin. It means inauspicious actions and deeds which we have performed, and these are now ripe to be paid back. We are going to meet them again from other people in our lives, from circumstances in our lives. It all sounds quite scary because actually we don't know exactly what we did, but there is a way in the charts to find this out, and in this video I'll be pointing you in that direction. The thing to remember, everybody, is that we are in a very auspicious position, all of us. We are humans. We have a human body. We are able to rectify some of this karma right now with Saturn remedies. So this is why at the end of the video I'm going to give you some indications how to do that. Final point, please don't forget to read also in your D9 chart, everybody. Saturn's position there is crucial. What's happening is in your D1 or natal chart, you will definitely recognize yourself, as I've been talking about, by your past life experience. It's clearly a part of who you are. But your D9 chart is equally showing you an evolution of those karmas. So you will also probably recognize that Saturn as well. Don't forget, D9 is not just after marriage. D9 is not just happening at a certain age. D9 is there from birth. So even in small children, as they grow, we can see this D9 Saturn is manifesting. If Saturn is well placed in both charts, that's good. If Saturn is poorly placed in your birth chart, but in a more auspicious position in your D9, that is also good because you are evolving positively with those karmas. If, however, Saturn is well placed natal chart, but not so much in your D9, that indicates that you definitely need to put into play some of those Saturn remedies soon as you can, because what's happened is you've got stuck in some of those karmas. In some way, something has occurred where you are not able to deal with a certain situation, and this is not just about marriage, by the way. This is your whole dharmic pattern, and you become stuck in some karmic pattern. Therefore, you need to definitely put into play certain remedies to get you moving forward. So, with that understood, let's continue with the readings for every sign. And don't forget, if you are Western based, to take away 23 degrees from your natal Saturn, because tropical Saturn will not give you any indication of past life karmas. That won't be possible. You need true sidereal Vedic position. Let's go. So when Saturn is in the sign of Aries at your birth, this is a conflicting energy at the very core of your being, because the planetary energies are basically at war with each other, but not in a face-on war, because Mongol and Shani are not friends in any way. Mongol's energy is forceful, dynamic, warrior like. Shani is a recluse. Shani is in meditation, is in the forest, does not want to fight. So, what is happening is that this confrontation is happening in your psyche continually, and it's coming from past life situation. Past life deeds that are indicated by Saturn in Aries are deeds that were very many times heroic, to do with warlike activities. Maybe you were a great warrior of some sort, but most certainly you were a fighter at the very least. You may have been in a war zone situation. Aspects show you how difficult or how successful you were with these Martian energies, but definitely warlike situations of competition, situations of conflict, sometimes even violence, but most definitely not an easy and not a peaceful past life experience. So, how will these past life experiences and deeds influence you in this life? How will your pending karma be affected? And how can you be most successful with this Shani position? Well, first of all, the indications are that you're going to have at the core of your being a feeling of frustration because you are a very driven person. You are very dynamic. You want to keep moving ahead. You're absolutely very competitive, determined to win, determined to be the first, determined to move ahead. That is your innermost desire. But you keep on coming up against hurdle after hurdle because Saturn is bringing these deep karmas back to you as obstacles and hurdles. Obstacles from other people who are your competitors, obstacles from rivals, obstacles from circumstances that always seem to get in your way. Whenever you start something new, there's a hurdle and another hurdle and another hurdle, and you're always fighting. You're never able to put down weapons. Why is this happening? Is actually because of a fear of defeat. Because, as I've just discussed, past life circumstances were very challenging, may have had a warlike situation, a absolute need to fight. You are always aware that things can be taken away from you at a split second, and you are always on your guard. It's like you're always guarding against somebody destroying what you have. Deep down, that's the subconscious factor. But the good news is that as long as you keep on moving forward, as long as you keep on fighting for what you want, you will gain success. You see, Saturn here is testing you, but Mars, ruler of the sun, will not let you be defeated if you just do not give in. But there is a way to go about this, and the core message is for the utmost success, you have to be ethical. Saturn is watching ethics. Every time you take a shortcut to defeat an enemy, to defeat a rival, Saturn's going to be there. No, no, that's not the way. You have to be, no matter how frustrated you are, and you will feel mightily frustrated because this is a debilitation sign of Saturn. Saturn is not at ease here. So, because of this debilitated position, frustration is your number one enemy. But Saturn will reward you when, despite the huge temptations, you stay ethical. You don't do things that in any way would harm or cause disturbance to other people. No matter how tempting, no matter how small it is, if you can stay ethical, Saturn will give you success. And my goodness, what success can you have with this Saturn in Aries? It's magnificent success. Magnificent, really, because Aries is never defeated. Mars in Aries will move you ahead. I don't mean that you have Mars in Aries, but Mars as ruler here will keep on pushing you. And if you can stay ethical, you will definitely have great success. You have such motivation, such fantastic ideas. You are a true entrepreneur. But here's the other problem: you work best on your own. You are not a happy person when you are taking orders. You don't like authority, you like to be the boss. Now, to be the boss, though, you may be far better self-employed, many of you. I mean, not all of you, but as much as you can, you need to have a great deal of independence and autonomy in your working situation. And this will include relationships. If this is in any way related to your seventh house, then you are definitely going to want to be independent in relationships. It's going to cause some difficulties there, which you're going to have to work through. But self employment, being an entrepreneur, being a business person, wow, this is one of the greatest positions possible. You will overcome every obstacle. You will find innovation and ways to do things that nobody else thought of. You can be the first to start anything. So it's a magnificently successful position, surprisingly, even though Saturn is debilitated. So do not be afraid and stay ethical. It's a win-win if you do that. So Saturn's in Taurus in your chart. This is quite a stable combination of energies. Venus and Shani are friends, but there is a deep inconsistency also here that needs to be understood, because Saturn's agenda is renunciation, don't forget, to take away the veil of Maya. But Venus is for indulgence, for complete immersement in material factors. Now, past life deeds indicated here are definitely going to be very extreme. This would indicate an either extreme wealth, where you had magnificent wealth, or you had extreme poverty, one or the other. Okay, so you were having lack or you were having abundance. But if you had the huge abundance, you had a fear of loss. And if you had that lack, you had a fear of life itself being taken away. So, with those karmas at the back, you come into this life to find that middle position where you are not completely overwhelmed with wealth, but you are never in lack. So, your ultimate need, your ultimate goal in this life will always be security and stability. So, how are these past karmas going to impact you now? What pending karmas do you have? And how can you use this Saturn position for the greatest success? Well, first of all, Saturn's going to slow you down, mightily so. Your push for security is very extreme, as I say, but Saturn's going to make it step by step. You're going to be a very methodical person at heart. You're going to be not afraid to take your time, because Venus and Saturn are in harmony. This is very good for money management. You're a very good manager of your financial situation indeed. You can be a very good person working with money, actually, as well as making it. You are very good at saving, very good at making a thrifty way through any situation. Saturn here also gives a need for an absolute secure working environment. You like to stay in the same job and work your way up, and it normally works very well for you. You can become a very good manager with this Saturn. You're a very good team player, because this is what Venus is really good at, working in harmony with other people. The issue where you find disharmony is when you find insecurity. Any situation which, and again, you have to look at the aspects to Saturn and the house that Saturn is in. Any situation that can cause you insecurity, and you can go off the deep end overnight. If you've got Saturn, let's say, in your seventh house, any insecurity with your partner is deeply unsettling for you. The slightest thing makes you feel insecure. And also, because Venus and Saturn have this difficult relationship in regard to enjoying material luxury, because Saturn isn't aesthetic. Saturn doesn't want to indulge, whereas Venus is all about enjoying food and drink and the good life. Yeah, So there's a real conflict in the heart of your being. No matter how wealthy you become, no matter how secure you become, every time you overindulge, you feel really guilty. Every time you even have a good, luxurious holiday, which is well within your means, you feel a little bit like, should I be working more? Should I really be wasting my time? Because Saturn's always on your back. So every time you go for Venus, Saturn will be there saying, no, hold on, life is not about this. So moderation is necessary, but not always easy. I've seen this Saturn give eating issues, maybe drink sometimes, but mostly food issues. I've seen this as being like a shopaholic placement where like a person can't stop buying things, and it's an absolute addiction. So negatively aspected Saturn can definitely give real issues with those Venetian pursuits. So, the key to a successful situation with this Saturn here is moderation. Finding moderation in all areas of your life. So, being satisfied with the wealth which you get and not always looking for more and more security. Okay, that is really an important lesson here that Saturn will demand that you learn. So, when you find that simplicity at the heart of your being, a real dependence on, if you like, God, on the universe to give you all that you need, no more, but just enough. With that middle way, you will find absolute satisfaction and happiness. So, that is the main issue here for Saturn Taurus, finding that middle path in life, finding that inner feeling of happiness, which is from just doing what you need to do and not always looking for more and more indulgence. That's the lesson. And the reward for learning the lesson is that Saturn will give you security. Saturn will give you happiness. Saturn will allow you to enjoy material success. So that's the most favorable aspect possible here. Saturn is giving you the rewards of good deeds from your past life. Enjoy it. So, Saturn in Gemini. When Saturn is in the sign of Gemini, we have a rather harmonious situation at the heart between Saturn and Mercury, who are in a fairly friendly relationship, but there is a conflict because Mercury represents a certain level of inconsistency and Saturn demands consistency, and this is one of the deepest karmic problems. Past life situations will definitely be chaotic family situations, may have involved siblings, but certainly chaos in a family situation. There may have been tendencies to manipulative activity or to being involved in underhand activities also. There was a definite feeling of family life being unstable as well. So this is a very shifting past karma, which has made you a very worldly wise person, but a highly critical one also. So, how will Saturn in Gemini manifest for you in terms of pending karma in this life and indeed in terms of how you will gain success? First of all, Saturn in this sign is going to give you a critical nature. As I say, you've had difficult circumstances which make you a little untrusting of other people. Sometimes you even don't trust yourself. You're very self critical. You've got to watch this because this can be your big downside. You've got to have more faith in yourself. You should have, because Mercury Saturn gives you immense intellectual skill and ability. It doesn't really matter how far you go in education, you are highly intelligent with this Mercury Saturn combination. Saturn here is also going to give you curiosity. You're always looking for the where is the grass greener? Where can I go next? What can I do? It's a very restless energy indeed. One of the major karmic situations, though, that we'll often see here is a sudden move where you completely just leave everything and go. It's this restless need to move on. It lacks patience. Often here, Saturn wants you to stay just that little bit longer in that relationship, just a little bit longer in that job to make things work. And you have to watch the ethics here, because Saturn is always about ethical motivation. So every time you leave anybody in the lurch, or you leave a job just overnight and leave people in the lurch, as it were, that's going to leave a trail of tricky situations behind you, which are really coming from past life experience. You just can't help it. You just feel stifled so easily. Saturn here makes it hard for you to stick with things, to see them through. And at the heart of this is really a lack of confidence in yourself. As I say, that's something which you have to work hard to develop, because Saturn here makes you highly skilled. Now, how you will be skilled, what it will be, depends on the other factors in your chart. You could be a skilled musician, you could be skilled in art, you could be skilled in ICT and computer work. You could be a fantastically skilled writer, because Saturn gives you skill with words. But one of the obstacles is sometimes you can have a communication issue, a speech problem here. And again, it's an absolute karmic factor. But here's the good news. Whatever the obstacles are, every time you try to stay a little bit longer with something than you would like to, every time you give something a little more time, Saturn will reward you, and you will see how appreciated you are. You don't appreciate yourself enough. Whereas if you could only see how other people appreciate you, because you see, Mercury is a child at heart. Mercury has an energy of youth and enthusiasm, and you have that at your core of being, and you have the great ability to enthuse other people. You can be a great support to them if you just stick around long enough. But this love of variety in life and change can also, and again, this definitely has to be about aspects, can lead to a feeling of not knowing who you are at a very fundamental level. There can be issues with your sexuality. There can even be sex change sometimes. There can be a feeling of not knowing who you really are and what your purpose is. This is all to do with a factor of duality and manipulation that was forced upon you in past life situations. One thing that will be definitely seen though here very, very often is family issues, intense conflicts and rivalries in family. It doesn't really matter where Saturn is placed, in which house, particularly sibling issues. I mean, sometimes Saturn in Gemini, you may be a twin, or you may have a real issue with a sibling that is completely karmic, coming exactly from a repeated situation in a past life, which you have to face again. What does Saturn want you to do? Whatever the situation is in your family, whatever the situation is with your siblings, he wants you to be responsible. He wants you to support them. He wants you to not just run away, but stay with that situation. And every time you do that, you stay with things rather than moving away from them suddenly, Saturn will reward you with the most amazing situations, and actually, that is how you gain success. So, if you look back on your life and you think of all the things you've moved away from, don't be despondent. Now is the time to stick with it, because Saturn here can actually make you renowned. Saturn in Gemini makes you sparkle, because Mercury is a person who sparkles with effervescence. So you are very attractive to other people, and you can actually be in the spotlight in some way. So you could even get fame with this Saturn. Okay, so use the innovation, use the skills, use the knowledge, but develop confidence in yourself, because once you have that, the world is your oyster for sure. Saturn in Cancer. When we have Saturn in the sign of Cancer, we have a definite conflict of energies here because Chandra or Moon is a motherly, kind, warm energy which is essentially about needing material security and warmth. And actually, it's about enjoying material life itself. It's about bringing people together. That's the moon's energy. Whereas Shani's energy is about going alone, being a recluse, getting away from society, renouncing society for higher goal, seeing right through the veil of Maya. But the moon represents that Maya itself. So we can see that there is a deep factor here in revealing the Maya of the material world. It's a very special position, actually. So, what situations were developing in past lives? What deeds are you actually bringing with you in this lifetime? They are definitely around family issues for sure, about home issues, country, place of origin. Definitely issues around mothering, feeling nourished, giving nourishment, being a mother, maybe, or father figure, being a nourisher or receiving that nourishment. There may have been some definite loss, some definite factors of abandonment sometimes occurring. So these are really quite difficult karmas and experiences, but they have given an intense wisdom and it's going to come out in this life. So, how will this Saturn in Cancer manifest in terms of pending karma, and how can you make the best of this position for success? Well, first of all, early childhood is definitely going to be challenging for most of you with this Shani, and the worse aspects are, the more difficult it becomes, more or less. What you often find is a lack of emotional security. There can be a real feeling of lack of love sometimes, even. It can be that the mother is there, but she is not able to nourish you with her love. There may be even a lack of mother. There may be, at the worst case, abandonment. But there is a real feeling that even if the mother is there, father is there, all the security is there outwardly. Inwardly, there's a barrier to experiencing love and belonging. Now, this has a deep impact on you psychologically because moon is, of course, mind as well as emotions. So, what we tend to see with this moon Saturn combination here in this sign is that you turn inwards and you become a bit detached. Your emotions become turned inwards and you become lacking in self worth. You're not able to nourish yourself because you did not receive that nourishment. And so you may have lots of friends around you or not. It doesn't really matter how your life develops. There's a little barrier coming up always between you and other people. If you really think about it, there is this psychological wall, and it's all to do with fear. Fear that you cannot trust other people to be fully there for you. But actually, Saturn wants you to break down the wall. You see, Saturn is the wall because Saturn is fear. Moon is such a tender planet, a needy planet. And when those needs are not met, then you build up this wall of protection. That's what it is, actually. So, this feeling of emotional insecurity will definitely impact all of your life for some time. But once you mature, and with fairly good aspects here, especially, you can actually be a rock of support for other people and find security in the end. So, even though you have this rather rocky beginning in life, Saturn wants you to become a source of help and security to other people. That's the actual karmic lesson. So you will absolutely find that you are given responsibilities whether you want them or not. You will find responsibilities for family members, responsibilities for your friends, responsibilities in the work situation, which make you show this motherly, it doesn't, really matter whether you're male or female, but this motherly, caring attitude to other people. And people begin to turn to you for help, come to you for advice. In fact, you make a marvelous counselor, a very, very good therapist. In fact, many therapists actually have Moon Saturn in their chart. I've seen this. You will also have to make your own family situation work for you. In some ways, some people here can become so detached from family life, and particularly sometimes men, this can affect more than women, that you actually feel like you don't need a family, that it's not that important to you. But that's not the real truth of it. And actually, you make a marvelous family when you put all of your energy into it. You can make other people feel so secure where you do not. And actually, that's what Saturn wants of you. He wants you to give, he wants you to be able to do things for other people, to become a really dutiful parent. And it won't be easy because parenting will be challenging. Saturn here makes being a parent harsh for you sometimes. It really pulls all of your strings because of those early situations. But if you can move with it, if you can attempt to give, even if you didn't feel as though you received, my goodness, you will be one of the most loved parents on the planet. Your children will simply adore you because you will have done what Saturn wants you to do. But some of you may not even have children because that is not your actual karma. You are to be a mother, a father to the world. You are to give nurture and care to the whole world itself. And you have to find a career, you need to find a role in which you can absolutely do that. Anything which is about caring for other people. Very often I've seen this. Saturn in Cancer makes you very fond of non-human beings. This is a very common thing. You are very attracted to those who are in need of help. You know, maybe orphan children, older people, but particularly non-human beings. You always want to help them, and you gain such good karma from this activity. So, in the end, all of your success, all of your security, all of your material wealth itself will actually come from the love which you can find in yourself to give to others, because you do have that love, but past life experience may have beat it out of you, but it is there and it needs to be shown. Once you do that, you can become a wealth of support for other people, and your sense of happiness will definitely grow. Saturn in Leo. Now, with Saturn in Leo, we have again a conflict of energy in a major, major way here, because Saturn is not happy in the sign of the king. He is a renunciant, he is the servant, he is a recluse, and the king demands absolute living in the limelight because that's what a king does. Also, Shani is a son of Lord Surya, the actual son Ravi. And actually, Shani and his father did not have a good relationship at all. So, one hand is that you may have a similar challenging situation with father, and I'll be talking about that, but not always. I'll be coming back to it. So, what about your past life deeds? Most certainly, these will involve conflict and challenges from authority, from government, from people who rule over you. Or you may have been a ruler yourself, but you did not in some way rule well. Maybe you weren't able to many other factors, but there was some lack of successful rulership. They are the main karmas shown. So, what pending karmas do you have, and how can you be successful with this Saturn position? Well, first of all, Saturn in Leo is going to give you a great deal of pride in your being. You really have a strong ego with this Saturn. There's no getting away from it. You have a very strong will. You are very determined because this is a fixed sign Shani. So Shani here is going to make you determined to do your own thing, go your own way. But the first aspect that's absolutely going to show up is father issues. In some way, there can be many different karmas here, but in some way, there is either a really special relationship with your father, which is outstandingly close, or there is a distance and there is some sort of conflict there, which you are going to have to work through. But actually, conflict with authority can become a really important part of your whole existence here, because Saturn is going against the authority of the king. Saturn is a rebel at heart. You are going to be a rebel against authority all of your life. You don't like to conform, you want to go your own way. But this can also be conversely somebody who likes to be in uniform. I've seen quite a few Saturn in Leo people who go into the army, go into police force, go into some form of uniformed work because you like that feeling of having the uniform on. You like the feeling of being in authority yourself. That's the deep conflict there. You like to be in control and you like to give orders if you are really honest about it. So, this shying away from authority in society but needing to be an authority figure is a core conflict in your very being. But what's going to happen as far as your pending karma is concerned? Most people with this Saturn have to take some role of responsibility. At some point, the spotlight, Leo, is going to shine on you and you're going to have to come up onto that stage. Now, it may be literally for some of you like an acting stage, or it may be some form of leadership because you are a good leader. You are a very good person for showing other people correct way forward, and you can be a much respected figure. This Saturn can make you someone who people absolutely look up to in the most amazing way. You can even become famous with it. All depends on all the other things in your chart, obviously, all the other factors there. But my goodness, you can have a real charisma with this Saturn. But the deep feeling is that you don't always feel up to it. Sometimes you feel puffed up with the ego of it all, because you like that feeling of being in that spotlight. You just love it. But sometimes you just feel like a fake. You feel like, I'm not really up to this. I'm not really this wonderful individual people think I am. And that's the great problem for you. Because whether you feel up to the role or not, very often karma will put you into that leadership situation. And what Saturn's looking for is only one thing: to give you great success. He wants you to step up into that role without ego. He wants you to try to put ego away. He wants you to serve with the troops, if you like. Like a general, right? Who is the general, who is in control, but is on the front line with the troops. He wants you to put away ego. And if you can do that, my goodness, what success you can have. It can be very big indeed. Finally, Saturn's going to demand integrity, that you stick with your real belief, because sometimes a Saturn in Leo can pretend. Because don't forget, Leo is the actor as well. You can pretend just so people will like you. You can see this in yourself sometimes, particularly in relationships, where you have to put on this big, tough role, or this very feminine role, okay, depending whether you're male or female, which isn't really who you are. Saturn demands that you have integrity, that you be real and you be honest, because Leo and Sun is about Dharma. More than anything else, you have to be honest. You have to speak truth. That's a real karmic necessity. So once you speak your truth, once you have your real ideal in front of you and you live up to it 100%, you are a beacon of light to other people. And that is absolutely what Saturn is requiring in this position. Saturn in Virgo. So once again, we have Mercury Saturn vibration, just like in Gemini. But in this case, Saturn is coming up against a different force because Gemini is an earth sign akin to Saturn's Vata or air quality. In this case, there is an earth element here. So Saturn is a little bit restricted here, but has a potential for detail, has a potential for being able to focus completely at the actual hard work involved in life. So there is a definite success potential here, but also some really serious issues that are coming probably from past life. Because the past life deeds indicated here are those of not being sure of yourself. There is a sense of criticism of self. There is maybe, because this is the Virgin sign, may have been past lives of actually attempting celibacy, which may have succeeded or not for some time. We cannot see individual charts here, but definitely Saturn indicates a very restricted, service orientated past life experience with definite family issues, because sixth house is the house of conflict. So there may have been separation from family, there may have been separation from parents, there may have been any situations in which as an individual you had to go it alone, had to make your own path, and there was always a sense of tension dealing with family issues. Saturn Virgo indicates those sort of past life situations. So, what pending karmas do you have to deal with Saturn in Virgo? How can you make the most of the opportunities with this position and gain success? Well, first of all, pending karmas are definitely going to come from a highly critical family environment early on. This is all coming from those past karmas. So, what you're going to find is that sometimes, especially when it is ill aspected here, Shani, is going to give you self doubt. You are going to turn that laser beam of perfectionism onto yourself. You're going to look in the mirror and find everything wrong with yourself. You're going to consider everything which you start is not going to work out. You're going to criticize yourself 100% far more than you do other people sometimes. So this is something that's really going to hold you back sometimes. You're going to have to find a way of holding on to that belief in yourself, because Saturn in Virgo gives amazing skill. I mean, 100% amazing skills here. Because Saturn is so focused on the minute details of life, you can become skilled in any area, from any sort of skill base, e.g., DIY jobs, e.g., doing any sort of medical work, being any sort of a service industry person where you have to focus on minute details, e.g., working in ICT, anything where the minute details, step by step task has to be accomplished. You are superb. You will leave no stone unturned. You will see the minute problem and you will be in there and you will sort it. You are great at sorting other people's problems, but the issue is, how are you helping yourself? Because of this heavy weight of criticism that you hone in on yourself, you hold yourself back. One of the factors Saturn in Virgo, though, is going to have to come to terms with is finding ways to deal with the stress which you put yourself under and indeed that you feel from life. Mindfulness meditation, can I just mention, is a wonderful factor for Saturn in this sign, because Saturn's energy needs to be calmed down. You need to be focusing on what is now rather than worrying about future, because worrying about what's going to happen is a major negativity with this Saturn in Virgo. But what skills you have when you hone them on helping other people. You are great in any service industry. You're particularly good actually at dealing with other people's issues, at helping them to come to a high understanding of their life and how to perfect their life. So This is a very good position for anyone who's a life coach, anyone who's a clinician, helping people with their diet, with their health, with anything at all which helps everyday life go smoothly. You can work well in any business situation also because you have that attention to practical detail. You're not really interested in lording it over others. You might become a manager, but you do it for the service rather than for the ego, and that's a very beneficial factor. Many individuals with this Saturn become concerned about welfare of planet itself. Like you can become very active in ecological factors, animal welfare, so on. In fact, I've seen, I don't know how many people with this Saturn in Virgo who become a vegetarian from a very early age. It's mainly from an ethical point of view very often, but also because you have such a clear understanding of human nutrition as well, and you just want to put the best food in yourself, and that's all it is. So you're a perfectionist, you're all out there to perfect the world, but stand back a little bit and just accept yourself as you are, because your kindness, your thoughtfulness, your ability to go full out to help other people is going to be so appreciated and loved over time. So love yourself too. You are definitely worth it. Saturn in Libra. Now, in Libra, Saturn goes into its exaltation state. This is where Saturn was actually for the birth of Krishna, for Lord Ram. This is where God Himself takes birth with Saturn in exaltation position to bring fairness and justice into the world and to rid the world of negative tendencies. So, if you were actually born with this, you have the same propensities, and that is a blessing of Lord Shani. So, what does Saturn indicate for conditioned souls like ourselves taking birth in this material atmosphere? What will Saturn mean about past life karmas here? Saturn definitely indicates past life karmas in regard primarily to relationships. There may have been loss, there may have been rejection, there may have been real serious issues which have caused a great deal of pain. But Saturn to be in this exalted state indicates that you have dealt well with them, that you did not take a negative view, but you actually tried to be fair in all circumstance. So Saturn is going to give you now a chance to remedy relationship situations, particularly. Karmically, partners may be definitely past relationship people, most certainly. So Saturn is a blessing here because he is exalted. But deep down, many of those Saturn karmas are going to resolve around you believing in your ability to maintain strong relationships. So, how will the actual pending karmas indicate in your life, and how can you be successful? The first factor, as I say, is that you are all out for social justice. You are all out to make society a fairer place. It doesn't really matter what you do for a living. You don't have to be a judge, but you could be a marvelous judge. You don't need to go into law, but you make a superb lawyer. You can go into any field where you are giving to society. That matters to you very much. But whatever you are doing with your life, you want to please other people. You want to be liked, actually, deep, deep down, if you really think about it. And you will always be a person who is fair in all circumstance. This can make you incredibly popular. This Saturn is a very liked Saturn because you know how to not shout people down, but to listen to people and to come to correct conclusions. You are a very good communicator, very good at public relations, a superb business person. I mean, this is one of the best Saturns for going it alone and being an entrepreneur in a superb way. You can get great wealth. There is no lack with this Saturn because just like those scales there, on the page. You know how to make money work for you. You know how to balance those books, and gain is often indicated by this exalted Saturn. But if Saturn is afflicted here, it's going to be a slow thing. But in the end, you will overcome obstacles because Saturn makes you patient in this sign. You're not rushing ahead, all guns blazing. You can wait your turn. You know how to be patient. You know how to be considerate. Therefore, people respect you completely. But despite this success, there is one area of life that I have seen that Saturn in Libra has to be careful with, and this is relationships. Yes, you've suffered in relationships past incarnations. Therefore, you will probably find that you have extreme caution and concern in relationships. You make a great marriage partner, though. You are totally committed. You give 100%. But the issue is you're very, very cautious. You have a deep inner insecurity, actually, sometimes, particularly if it is retrograde Saturn, particularly if it is actually afflicted here, because that makes Saturn stronger. And therefore, those past life concerns, worries, and anxieties become strong in intimate relationships. So, does this mean you won't be successful in relationships? Far from it. You can have a very successful marriage, but you will always have that inner concern. Am I loved? Am I wanted? Am I really appreciated? This can be a niggling doubt inside you because you see, Libra, like the scales, is always thinking, am I giving too much? Are they giving too much? Have we got an equitable situation? So you worry and angst a lot about relationship situations. But because of the positivity of this exalted Saturn, you can have a very successful, long-lasting relationship for sure. Saturn in Scorpio. This is a very powerful position of Saturn, but it contains some difficult karmas that need to be worked through for sure. Mars and Saturn, of course, are completely opposite, clashing energies, but this Mars is not giving debilitation status to Saturn here because this is the actual Mars of transformation. So there is, in fact, difficult karmas that need to be understood and worked through. The karmas connected, past life deeds here will definitely be very obsessive, very conflictual. There can have been life and death situations and even warlike situations again, similar to Aries Saturn. But in this case, there is a great fear in the memory, and this is going to cause more obsessional and fearful actions in this very lifetime. So let's explore this. You see, Saturn in Scorpio has a great potential for transformation and for growth. No Saturn has a greater potential than this Scorpio Saturn, but at the same time, it's going to cause you a great deal of strife and conflict in this very life. Pending karmas will indicate that you have to deal with conflict from a very early age. Very many people with this Scorpio Saturn have their life turned upside down from their early childhood experiences. There can be loss, there may be divorce, there may be moving, there may be great transformation that causes emotional upset. And this is just echoing memories of insecurity and fear that are absolutely there from similar past life experiences. However, once that is all overcome, when you are adult with this Scorpio Saturn, you carry that fear of change. Saturn in Scorpio likes to keep things really steady. Saturn in Scorpio wants to be in control at all times of every aspect of your life. And this is obviously going to cause some disruption. Because of this need for control, you can come into all sorts of difficulties, particularly in relationships. You see, Saturn in Scorpio contains obsession. Saturn here gets obsessed with everything in life, with your politics, with your goals, with your relationships, with your ideas, with everything about life, you get into it very deeply. It becomes emotional, it becomes personal. Saturn in Scorpio, though, does give enormous skill. It's one of the most skilled Saturn positions in research. Saturn is a researcher. He likes to study on his own for hours on end, finding truth. Scorpio is exactly the same. You can go deep into any research area, particularly scientific and history. You are particularly interested in human psychology. You know intuitively what makes people tick, and this gives you actually a great deal of power over other people. So Saturn and Scorpio make excellent leaders, actually. You're very good in anything where you lead from the front and lead from your heart. Because of your deep emotional involvement in everything which you do, people trust you and people follow you at the highest level. But unfortunately, because of your passion, because of your devotion, you can also get enmity. You can get followers and you can get rivals. You attract a lot of attention with this Saturn Scorpio because you say what you think. You always do. It's really, really hard for Saturn in Scorpio to not say what's really in their heart, what's really on their mind. Not so much in relationships where you can be more cautious, but when it comes to politics, family affairs, work situations, you say what you think, and people can dislike this because you are so honest about what you see as injustices, so on. So Saturn in Scorpio is a fighter for sure and a very good leader. You have superb skills, as I say, in all forms of scientific research, and you go deep with everything that you do. You do not do anything by halves. And in some ways, it can work against you because the most negative factor here, which you have to be aware of, is a clinging factor, a fearful factor, which is actually there from past lives of insecurity. So you have to be aware of every time when you cling on, when you cling to relationships, to work situations that have outlived their good in your life, you still can't let go because you fear that you are going to be worse off when actually you will not be so. Saturn favors you, therefore, every time you let go and you transform. Saturn in Scorpio goes through huge ups and downs in life. I mean, I've seen this in many people's charts. Saturn here can give huge transformation where you are rich and then you are poor and then you are rich again, relatively speaking, where you have a lot of money and then you lose it and then you regain it, where you can lose a job and be completely destitute and then you absolutely find your feet again, where you lose relationships and spend a long time on your own and then you are again with a new relationship. Saturn in Scorpio is always transforming who you are at a very deep level because this is a purifying position of Saturn. Saturn is giving you a chance now to get rid of many negative factors. Take it with both hands, definitely. So Saturn in Sagittarius, Saturn in the sign of Jupiter is in a neutral relationship planetary wise. So there is actually quite a good impact here because Saturn gives stability to ideas and to intellect and to religious knowledge. So it's one of the best positions actually of Saturn. Past life karmas generally tend to be around religious instruction, religious cultural knowledge. You've been very immersed in it and you have taken birth to continue with that exact same knowledge. Probably what you did not do was perfect it, and in this lifetime you are going to struggle with that philosophy, with that knowledge to bring it to perfection for sure. So, what are the pending karmas in this life then of Saturn in Sagittarius, and how can you use this for the best purpose and success? Well, first of all, it's going to give you high intelligence because Sagittarius is the higher learning, and Saturn gives you intuitive understanding and deep meaning here. Saturn is a renunciate, don't forget. So sometimes Saturn in this sign gives you a certain austerity towards material enjoyment. You want to get to the truth. You want to get to the philosophy. You want to get to the facts of why we are here. You're not interested in superficialities, generally speaking. Saturn here makes you a very serious person indeed. You're a very good teacher, a very good lecturer. You're very good at imparting knowledge, and you can make a living in this way for sure. One of the major lessons which you're going to face, however, in this life, and one of the major obstacles is ethics. Do you stick with your ethics come what may? Because this is a mutable sign, a movable sign, and you can be sometimes swinging between extremes, so do you really stick with what you philosophically know is true, or do you bend it to please the moment that you are in? Because a Sagittarius sign indicates a great deal of change over your lifetime. It includes a great deal of movement where you're moving from this place to that place. It's really hard to stay stable with a Sagittarius impetus in your life. Now, Saturn here is going to contradict that. Saturn's going to try to make you put down roots, and that's a conflict in your very being. You like to keep on the move. And here's the thing, Saturn wants you to mix with a great variety of individuals. Saturn in Sagittarius means a very mixed social life where you're mixing with people from all ages and all backgrounds culturally. You're a very broad individual. You are very open to all sorts of cultural differences. You're a very honest person too. And Saturn here, though, does make you a bit of a preacher, though. When you've got on your pedestal, when you know what you want to say, you can just go off on a tangent with it, because Saturn in Sagittarius will never give up on a point of principle. You will fight it to the death, literally. You have to remember that Sagittarius is a battlefield. So as I said before, past lives may have involved some really deep philosophical understanding, which you may have even been involved in war in regard to these understandings. So you are prepared to die for your beliefs. Your beliefs are the core of who you are. That does not make you a fanatic, by the way, not at all. It absolutely gives you a core of belief that you need to stick by. So Saturn's going to be watching you, though, when you do not stand by your high moral standards. So in a way, it's a blessing here, because it makes you a very intelligent, very articulate, very knowledgeable person. You can go to the heights of any academic situation, the absolute heights. But Saturn's going to be on your shoulder watching you every time you bend the ethics, every time you don't stay with those high standards. He's watching you because that's what you did last life, and this time he wants you to perfect things absolutely. Now, for some people with this Saturn in Sagittarius, because Saturn is delay, even though you have this deep understanding of spiritual wisdom, knowledge, religious ethics, you can just put them in a bag and forget about them. You see, Saturn knows that's your big temptation. So you can go off on your journey of life and just leave these things behind. But at some point in your life, you're going to be forced to take them out of the bag and take them seriously again, because that is the purpose of your human birth. So Saturn here can actually get you into all esoteric wisdom, like astrology, like anything to do with occult knowledge in a big way. And you study it. You are really, really a very good student. But Saturn wants you to live by the code. You see, Sagittarius means moral code. So if you find a new knowledge like astrology, then you have to use the morals in that and put them into your life. That's what Saturn demands of you. It's not enough just to learn about astrology. What are the morals behind it? What are the morals around karmas? You have to put them into real practice in your everyday life. And what happens is, the older that you get, because Saturn is old age, of course. The older that you get, you become an absolute authority. You can become spectacularly well known, spectacularly looked up to in your local community. You become a wealth of knowledge and experience, because Saturn in this sign also gives a very wide life experience, because Sagittarius is a roamer. You like to travel, as I say, you like to move around. So with that wealth of knowledge, of spiritual insight and life experience, you become a very well liked, knowledgeable individual for sure. It's a very favorable position for any career, by the way. There is nothing which you could not lay your hands on, because Sagittarius is multifaceted, but you definitely want to be involved in some intellectually capacity in your career, because you need to be giving ideas and spreading ideas. That's the main thing. So stay with your philosophy, stay moral, stay ethical, stay true, and Saturn is definitely favoring you in every way in this sign. Saturn in Capricorn. Saturn in his own sign is obviously immensely strong, and people often compare this sign unfavorably with Saturn in Aquarius. You should not do so. Saturn in this sign gives you immense knowledge of material situations. This indicates quite heavy karmas to do with father, past life situations with father figures, gurus even, but mostly father figures and authority figures are very strong indeed. There can have been serious conflict, and it's going to come up again in this very lifetime. But Saturn gives you tremendous power in this position over life and death itself, because Saturn here is in the sign of the graveyard, where everything is ending. So you have a deep philosophy, a deep understanding of the ephemeral factors of life and how everything is passing away. This makes you a very wise person indeed. Yes, Saturn in Capricorn shows pending karma of using wisdom, because Saturn here is going to make you a complete realist. You see life for what it is. Saturn is a sadhu, Saturn is a recluse. So when he's in his own sign here, he's meditating, he's in the forest, he's in peace. Okay? He is coming to the realization of what is Maya here. He is in the graveyard, where he passes over all of the duties to his brother, Yamaraj, who takes over when we leave this material realm. So Saturn is in his element here. But what is he going to do for your pending karmas? Well, certainly Saturn's going to give you great success, because he will give you enormous focus dealing with the material elements of life here. You can go to the greatest heights in any business, in any career at all. But it's going to happen slowly, because Saturn is slow moving, and Capricorn is a slow mover in a way as well, because you take care to move ahead logically and progressively. So you're not in a rush to get to the top, but you are always wanting to be progressing. So Saturn definitely is going to give you material success. Very often enormous wealth can be seen with this Shani, with good aspects also. He certainly gives you ability to create stability in your life. One factor that can be often seen, though, is family issues, particularly, as I've said, with father and with other authority figures in your family. You are here to follow on with family tradition, but sometimes it feels like it's like a noose for you. It's like you just feel like you just want to get away and do something different, because this is a past life pending karma coming into this life. So just like Saturn Leo has a special father karma, you have it too, but in a slightly different way. It's not so much an out and out conflict with your father, but there's a feeling of a duty, of that you have to do what your father would prefer you to do, and sometimes you would rather not. So Saturn here can give an inner conflict with father rather than outward expression of it. But on the whole, though, Saturn gives excellent family affairs because he makes you inwardly dutiful, he makes you inwardly responsible. You can have a very good family life indeed, actually, and you give great stability to other people. The biggest minus I've seen with this Saturn in Capricorn is your own inner fears of, can you really make it? Do you really trust in your abilities? Because Saturn gives a pessimistic outlook. Saturn is always looking at the dark side of things because he is a realist, because he sees the actual reality of Maya. So self doubt can sometimes crop up even though you have enormous ability. Another factor is that you become a pessimist as well, because Saturn here can give enormous depression at some times. It has to be said, it can cloud your mind with doubt and fear and foreboding. And once again, it's not so much about a worrying factor, it's more about seeing the reality of things, because as I say, Saturn is so happy here. Saturn is so much into his renunciate state, if you like, his renunciation, that even when you get success, you sometimes feel, is it all worth it? So sometimes depression can cloud your mind. But it's just a natural factor of being in this material world. So what you need to do is to just accept that you sometimes have these dark moments, that you sometimes have this feeling of doubt, and that you just have to work through them. Finally, Saturn in Capricorn is going to have an impact in how you deal with relationships. It makes you a tremendously dutiful partner. You will go through hell and high water to stick with any relationship which you consider to be worthwhile. But sometimes Saturn can give you difficulties in relationships because Capricorn Saturn is not a particularly harmonious situation for human relations, really. You're very much a little bit of a loner. You go your own way and you're actually fairly satisfied in that. Not that you're always going to be single, far from it, because you're a very family orientated person, but you actually have this feeling of detachment in relationships. Saturn gives you issues when it comes to family finance as well here, because as I say, Saturn can make you very prosperous here, but Saturn can also give you a duty with family affairs which you find overwhelming, like everybody's turning to you for help, everybody's wanting you to help them, particularly financially. You see, this is the sign of the great father to the clan, if you like. You know, those old style families where there was a big gun father who was controlling everything. I don't mean the Godfather, but you know what I mean. So basically speaking, what tends to happen here is that you find yourself in that big daddy role and you don't always feel up to it. That's another factor of this Saturn Capricorn. But you have a deep karmic family duty and you will fulfill it. And most of all, it's one of the most successful material positions of Saturn. So make the most of it to gain all that you want in life. Saturn is most definitely going to give that to you. Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn in Multicone sign, very strong, very powerful. Bringing past karmas though of idealism and strength. Did you put your ideals into play? You fought for a goal. Were you able to win? Were you able to make the world a better place in your last life? Well, you definitely tried. And for this, Saturn has given you the boon of Saturn in Aquarius, where you are now to complete those deeds. It's an absolute sign of completion. It's a fixed sign. Don't forget that this is the actual sign of Rahu. So you will never see the full results of this Saturn unless you see Rahu by sign house also. But let's focus now on the pending karmas though of this Saturn in Aquarius. It's a strong position for Saturn. This is one of the best, if some say the best place to have Shani. Shani is at home working on things that he wants to work to make the world a far better place. It makes you very focused on any goal. I mean, talk about workaholic, talk about focused. I mean, there is nobody more focused than yourself. When you have a goal, you are full out for it, not in a big ego way, because you know how to contain ego factors here. Saturn in this sign is the fall, if you like, in a way of Sun, Surya. So Saturn is in control completely. It's a service attitude behind everything that you do. You're not always after the limelight, but very often Saturn in this sign will give you limelight for your service to community and to the world in some way. You like to work in a big organization. You're very political. You're very interested in what's happening in the world. You're a trendsetter. I mean, Saturn in Aquarius, and this is also the Rahu here. You are on top of exactly what is the latest trend. You know where things are moving. You're a bit of a mover and a shaker, as they say. You know what it is, and you use this intuitive knowledge to gain success in your career. You know how to push ahead for what is popular, and it makes you a very popular person. Saturn in this sign can absolutely gain huge popularity as well. And Saturn, of course, is very pragmatic in Aquarius. You see the goal and you get rid of anything which is extraneous to it and you work with what is. You're not interested in trying to look good so much as do good. You want to do the right thing. You want to move ahead society to a far better place. So, working with a larger community, working in politics, working in any business situation where you are aiming to uplift society is your best place for sure. Now, Saturn here can sometimes interfere with home life. I've seen this because you're so outwardly focused that your home family life can sometimes, for some individuals, take a back burner, and that can give conflict. You have to watch out for that. So, finding a home life balance becomes hugely important to you. But this combination of Saturn, Rahu, because don't forget Rahu rules this sign as well, makes you a definite trendsetter. People see you from a distance, you get renowned. Now, Saturn in Aquarius, funnily enough, doesn't like the limelight normally. Other factors may contradict this, but on the whole, Saturn wants to get on with the job at hand. He doesn't want to be distracted. But due to the absolute Rahu factor here, which is always, there in Aquarius, you may find yourself immensely at the cutting edge of some situation. You know, you can become the star in your office, you can become the star in your school, you can become the star in anything because Saturn gives you that cutting edge that makes you noticed. But the funny thing is, you're not looking for it. You are just being who you are. You're not making a real effort to be a star, to be outstanding. You're just being who you are. But this is all due to those good karmas actually coming from the hard work which you put in previously. So Saturn's going to give you a really good start in life. Saturn in this sign also means that, behind you, you have a solid family tradition, a solid family support. As I say later on in life, with your own family, you may find it hard to find a home life balance, but you certainly normally have a good start in life with this Saturn in Aquarius. So use all of your talents, use all of your innovation. Don't be afraid to push out when you see an opportunity because Saturn will not let you down here. The number one lesson, though, is in everything that you do, will this make society a better place? Are you doing something that helps human life become more ethical? Are you doing something for the good of the greater world itself? Ecologically, maybe, planet itself, politically, maybe, whatever it is to you, what matters is that you put your heart and soul into it because Saturn's going to give you absolute success. Just like Saturn in Capricorn, this is an absolute guarantee of material success in life. Saturn in Pisces. Now, Saturn is in the sign again of Jupiter, similar to Sagittarius, and this is quite favorable because Jupiter and Saturn have a neutral relationship. But the issue here is that Saturn is a practical planet and Pisces is a very confused and not practical sign, which is purely based on spirituality and understanding of spirit. So basically, there is going to be a karmic lesson here in using wisdom because past life karmas definitely indicated a huge amount of wisdom that you had accumulated. But what did you do with the wisdom? Were you able to use it? Saturn is going to test you with that in this very lifetime. So, pending karmas, what will they be, and how can you use this position of Saturn for success in life? First of all, Saturn, as I say, is urging you again to explore those spiritual paths which you left aside last lifetime. So, there is a very strong spiritual side to this Saturn Pisces. You'll be very much guided towards all areas of spiritual facts, and of course, occult knowledge sometimes also. So, your belief in higher power, your belief in God, your belief in reality itself is being tested here. It's a big test. I've seen people with no spiritual belief whatsoever with this Saturn in Pisces. But actually, when you listen to them talk, you can see deep down they are grasping the reins of that again. They are searching for it desperately. Saturn in Pisces can give you some real difficulties, though. Here's a main problem. Saturn is a practical planet. He wants to get the work done, but Pisces wants to meditate. There's a real conflict. Pisces cannot focus. Two fishes are going in the opposite direction. Where is the focus? It's a dual sign. Therefore, it's really hard to get a grip on the practical realities of life when you have this Saturn Pisces. You will find that you drift through life for years and years without a focus. And then suddenly you attain it and everything seems okay. And then you lose interest and you drift off again. This up and down factor can really interfere with your material progress here. But one thing I have definitely seen in a few charts come really to the fore is Saturn in Pisces gives late life really good success. Even though you were drifting for such a long time, finally you gain what you were meant to do. And more often than not, it's in a helping profession. Saturn here makes you highly empathetic, highly able to put yourself in other people's shoes. You become a great guide to people, a guru almost in yourself, in that you know how to guide people in the right direction for themselves. The issue is, can you guide yourself? And I really think you shouldn't worry too much about this. Saturn here makes you full of anxieties, it has to be said. Because Saturn wants to get the job done and Pisces doesn't want to do it just yet, tends to put things off. I mean, Saturn in Pisces is one of the great procrastinators of the zodiac. It's always a good day tomorrow, but not today. Because of this dreamy nature, this escapism tendency, you can lose opportunities. You have to be really careful. You see, Saturn does really well here when he has help from another planet, maybe Venus, maybe even Jupiter, because he is able to ground himself in what needs to be done. On his own, he can flounder a little bit in this wishy-washy atmosphere of Pisces. So basically, you're going to find a late direction in life. You're going to find a helping profession in which you give guidance to other people, and it's going to be tremendously successful. But one of the biggest dangers, though, of Saturn in this sign is indecision. You see, Saturn here is going to force you to take a road and leave another road behind. And every time you have to make these big choices in life, it's very difficult. If Saturn is ill aspected here, sometimes you can fall to pieces having to make these difficult decisions. One thing that you definitely do gain, though, is experience and wisdom, which is why, as I say, you make such a good counselor. Later in life, people look up to you with a great deal of awe here because you have experienced so much and you have survived. Saturn in Pisces is a definite survivor. You do need to watch, though, that your anxieties do not overtake you because you can become very anxious about the slightest change and worrying if you are, as I say, going in the right direction. So, anxiety becomes a major factor of your life. One thing I've seen, though, is actually very fortunate here. Saturn in Pisces often attracts a more grounded partner, a relationship with a person who is definitely practically orientated and almost takes care of them. So you're able to attract people who help you as well. So it's all about not worrying too much, giving of yourself and letting that deep spiritual wisdom, which you have had through many lifetimes, come to the fore. Knowing that there is no wrong turning, there is only a right turning, there is only the way that you were definitely meant to go. Finally, everybody, some tips on Saturn remedies, some of which you may not have known of before, because what I'm going to talk about here is what is the easiest way, and there is never an easy way, but to at least mitigate some of these difficult karmas. One thing I would say, if you're in a Sadi Sati, by the way, where Saturn is near to your moon, going over the sign before, on your moon, or after your moon, please check the link I have below, where I've gone into great details of how to mitigate those specific karmas, because Sadi Sati is always a special case. A very important thing to see this. But Saturn remedies, when we have Saturn ill placed or challenging in our chart, we definitely need them. One of the greatest cures for Saturn, I'm going to give you a great secret now, but it's something that people find hard to hear. So, see if you can take this. I have heard this from Pandit Sanjay Rath, and he is so right about so many things. A great astrologer, please check him out. He has said very, very clearly, if you don't want to see Saturn sorrow, you have to get rid of Mongol. Don't go with Mongol. Mongol is Mars. Mars and Saturn are opposed to each other in every way. Mars brings us back to face enemies we defeated and they defeat us. We win an argument in this life, next life we are defeated. And on it goes, eternal suffering. So what he means is try to put aside ego. The easiest remedy for Saturn is 1, forgiveness, 2, putting aside ego, and finally, try not to put a big store by winning all the time because it's an illusion. There is nothing to win, there is nothing to gain. Really, it's all Maya here. So try to give, try to be kind, try to sacrifice, and Saturn will be pacified. Now, here's some definite tips. Yes, it's a sacrifice on a Saturday. Every time Saturday arrives, think of the word sacrifice. Basically, if you can give something up on a Saturday, everybody, and increase all the time, you will definitely purify those karmas. I know you might want to know about a gemstone here and a gemstone there, but that's a different topic, and I don't want to go there because really, is it just that easy just to put a ring on your finger or to wear a particular gemstone to get rid of these difficult karmas? No, we need to pass here. We need to at least suffer a little bit. So you can take this as far as you like, but here's how it goes. On Saturdays, Shani's day, you have to give something up. Now, most definitely, you shouldn't be eating meat, I have to say, because that is Mongol. That is going with Mars violence. So you shouldn't be absolutely doing that on Saturday for sure. But you have to go beyond that. So what you have to sacrifice is something which you love and you like. For instance, in my case, I'm a coffee lover, so I've been giving up my coffee on a Saturday and now chocolate as well. I have chocolate every day. I have to give it up on Saturday. So sacrificing something. At the most, you could fast the whole day. That's really good. But Every Saturday, make an effort to maybe give up the internet or give up something which you love. That helps you. It's a form of tapasya, sacrifice. Finally, another way to give is of your wealth or even time, giving to charity. These are the ones that are most associated with Lord Shani. Animals, non-human beings. Yes, the crows. Feed the crows for sure. I could tell you quite a funny story about that when I went to feed some crows in a cemetery. I thought that was a good place because Shani rules cemeteries one time a few years ago. I had my special bag of food specially bought for the crows who are normally there. When I arrived, guys, there was not a crow to be found. I walked around for ages with my bag of goodies, and in the end, there was so many other birds just looking at me. I gave all of my food to those birds, and I left most despondent that my crow remedy had not worked. And I got to the gates of the cemetery, and have a guess who was sitting on the trees? Two crows. And they looked at me, and I just was scoopering around to find a few crumbs in the bag of food, and I did. I put them on the ground and they came down. Oh, thank goodness. But I took a lesson, everyone, from that. Saturn just wants you to give to the non-humans, those who need help. So feeding animals, definitely. And if you can find the crows, that's really great. But any animals who need help, freeing them also. Homeless people, people who do not have material factors, people in poverty, definitely help, definitely donate. Finally, old people and disabled people, they are definitely linked to Shani. So I hope this was a useful video to you all and that you've found factors to help you deal with Saturn karmas, as well as finding some deep understanding about yourself as well. If you are new to my channel, don't forget, of course, to sub below, and coming up soon, more videos on Vedic, indeed all astrology. Goodbye for now, and God bless everyone.